Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you another stitch. This is the granny stripe stitch. I touched on this before on one of my previous videos for this little basket, which was in granny stripe. So I thought that I'd cover how to use this stitch for if you were using it on a blanket or any other works that you have. So this is really simple, works up in the US double crochet. It's really quick, so you could make a blanket from this in not long at all. It's really simple to do. If you don't yet know how to do the US double crochets, just refer back to some of my other videos and you will see how to do that. So with this, you do not need to have any specific yarn. As long as you're using the hook that goes with your yarn, you can do this with really fine yarn, or you can do it with really bulky chunky yarn as well. So I'm just going to use this yarn today and my 4mm hook, and we'll get started on how to do this. So the thing that you need to remember with this is that, again, you can use it in any size that you like. You can make it as big or as small as you need, but you must always do your starting chain in a multiple of 3 and then add 2. So for this, for example, this here, this is 18 with 2 additionals, so that's a 20 chain to make this. So I will do the same again and chain 20, so that's my 18 for the multiples of 3 and then adding 2. Alright, so once you have chained your 20 or however many that you need, what you want to do is you want to yarn over as if you're going to do your double crochet, and you want to go in to the second, as the second loop from your hook, ensuring that you've got both there. And then yarn over, go through 2, and then yarn over and go through 2 again. And you just want to do that the whole way along, doing these double crochets into your foundation chain. And that then just gives this base along the bottom here, your first initial row of all double crochets. So that is yarn over, go in to your stitch, yarn over and pull through, then yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2 again, all the way along. Okay, so now that we have done our row of double crochets, we're going to chain 2 and then turn your work. At this point you want to yarn over and you want to do a double crochet into this space at the very bottom of your chains. Okay, so it's a double crochet into the bottom of your chains. At this point you're going to yarn over, but you're going to skip the first 2 loops on your work and do a double crochet into the 3rd. Then do another 2 double crochets into the same stitch. So there's your first little cluster of double crochets in your space here. So then again, you would just yarn over to do your double crochet, skipping the next two and going into the third. And you would just do this all the way till you have only what would be left for the one remainder. Okay, so that's us done our last full cluster, and we have 3 loops left. So that's 2 above the posts of our double crochets and 1 from our chains. At this point you want to yarn over and go into this final loop from the top of your chains and do your double crochet into there, and then just do 1 more rather than the 2. So that's your first row. Then you would always have on this first row all your clusters in the center, depending on how many chains you did on your foundation chain, with the 2 on the outside being just 2 double crochets. You would then chain 2 and turn, and you would do your 3 double crochets into this gap here from your chain below, from your row below, sorry. And then into the next again for the following cluster, and continue doing that again until the last one of the row. Okay, so we'll just do the last 3 into here, into this space. And then what you would do at this point is you would yarn over and do a double crochet into the loops from your chain, the top loop of your chain from the previous row. And that helps to pull that up and give that straight edge at the side there. You would then do your chain 2 again and turn. At this point then, if you look down to 2 rows before, this is you just now repeating these 2 rows over and over until you have the height or length that you require. So at this point, as you can see from 2 rows before, you're on the 2 at this point, your cluster of 2. So you would just yarn over, and if you see that there is a space here before this last cluster and your double crochet for your edge, so you would yarn over and do your double crochet into there, just the 1, and then you would continue on to the end of the row as you had done in this first one. So just continue on with that, doing 3 into the first hole and then on to the end. Okay, so again at this point you're on to what would become your last cluster of 2 in the 2 rows before. So as you can see, there is this little gap in between this last cluster from in the hole here and your pillar to keep your straight edge. So you would just do your 2 double crochets into there. So that then just repeats over and over for as long as you would need it to. So going, as you can see at this point then, that you would have your starting row after your base of double crochets would have the 2 outers with 2 and then all your clusters inside, but the second row after that just has 1 post here, but has an additional cluster. So if you can see, for mine with my 18 and my 2 chains, that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in our first row, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the second, and that would just continue on until you were finished with the desired height or measurements that you wanted. So at this point then, you want to have your end to be the same as the beginning, to have this block row, or that is certainly how I would choose to do it. And just as here, as you can see on the basket, that I have this base row but also the top 2. So how you would do that is you would chain 2 again and then turn, and at this point, in order to not lose the effect and lose your little holes, what I would do is I would chain into what would always be above my pillars, but go through the hole for the stitch that is above the hole. So for here, I have my 2 pillars, and I would go into here and do my double crochet. But for this one, instead of going through the stitches, I would go under, and that just keeps that granny stripe effect on that top row as well. So then the next 2 would be into the stitch, and where this gap is, I would go under. That is my personal preference. You could go into the stitch and continue like such, but for myself, I prefer the appearance. I'll just continue with that to show you the difference. But I prefer the appearance of it being just pulled up as it is here, rather than leaving that stitch hanging down. So I would just go through the stitch. And then at the end there, you've just got that one last stitch to do. But as you can see, it does leave this little edge in. So at the very end here, if it was on that row that I ended, where I had my 2, I would just then go back into that chain and do another double crochet, just to ensure my straight edge. And then you could just cut your yarn free and work your ends in. If you were changing colour, you would do this at the ends of each row, which is really simple to do. Just cut your yarn free at the ends and attach it back on right into your stitch. So there you have it. That is how you do a simple granny stripe. It does work really quickly, is enjoyable to do, and it is definitely a beginner stitch, really simple. So if you didn't know how to do this before and now you're just learning this for the first time, perhaps you could go back and go over my video for this little basket and see how you get on with using it in something that's a bit different from just a blanket. Well, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed my video, please subscribe to my channel for more tutorials. Thanks guys.